everyone. Welcome back here to our TechStrong TV coverage of AWS reInvent for 2025. I promised you 2 more analysts, and here are 2 more analysts, both of my colleagues with the Futurum Group. Let me introduce you quickly to them. To the far right, he's no stranger to you if you watch TechStrong. It's my good friend Mitch Ashley. And the man in the middle, actually, you've been on a TechStrong TV once before, I remember. But if you don't know Nick Patience, Nick is our AI coverage specialist, but Nick is one of the co-founders of the 451 group, if you follow the tech analyst scene. Widely respected. Nick, it's great to have you here live with us.
Great to be here.
Mitch, as always.
You bet.
I didn't mean to embarrass you, but did I leave anything out that you want to mention about yourself?
My lifetime's accomplishments. No, that's good.
Stay right. That's a good salesperson. Stop it. Yes. Mitch, what about you?
Just in terms of coverage, I do kind of all things software development, AI agent development. Nick and I collaborate on the AI side of it. I collaborate with Brad and Fernando in respective areas. So it's a good team here at Futurum.
Absolutely. So guys, let's dive in. It was an exciting day. A lot of announcements in that keynote. You must be happy because it was AI all the time, it seemed, for a lot.
Everything is. Every conference is. So yeah, it's good.
So I'm not, let's say I've been around the block more than, or as Mitchell once taught me, a saying from Nebraska, I may have been
born that night, but it wasn't last.
Right, but it wasn't last night. I learned all these Midwest Nebraska sayings from me. We didn't have those sayings in New York, but but Nick, how much of this is PR announcements at shows and how much of it is rubber meeting the road?
Well, I guess for these guys, for AWS, they used to leave everything to reInvent. So everything to this time straight after Thanksgiving, and they realized the world doesn't work like that anymore. So I think they had some really interesting stuff. But it wasn't. Some of the years you come here and it's completely like everything. There's a list and it's so long. I think it's the stuff is real. I think you probably already talked about it. I'm not sure what you talked about, but the Nova Forge thing,
yes,
I think is really interesting. That's a kind of the sort of industrialization of the AI process, and I know Brad's digging into that pretty deeply. But I think that's a really interesting thing. It's not to say you couldn't do that with any other provider. But it's more like they wrap it up as a service and make it easier. Then I think it is I think that is it's real. I mean, there's stuff. Most of the stuff is real. I mean, some of it's in public preview, so it's very early. But I think AWS is having to work hard. It's obviously the dominant cloud provider, but it's having to work hard to reestablish its AI credentials somewhat. I've had many discussions with the company about that. With the current thinking, obviously, is of the 3 hyperscalers that kind of Google has an edge, but AWS has a market share and have hundreds of thousands of SageMaker customers and things like that. So they're not exactly flailing away, not knowing what's going on. But I think the models, the Nova Forge stuff, the chips. It's like all the hyperscalers. It's the ability these days for them to have everything from the chips to the applications and all the bits.
No, it's a vertical integration for sure. We used to call back in the day Koretsus, right? Mm-hmm. Where you had that whole family. But how much of this, I wonder, is AWS pivoting to AI in a big way because maybe they were a little bit, or at least perceived to be a little bit behind Google and Microsoft, right? Even in the Futurum Signal report, they weren't in the top 2. Mm-hmm. Not that the Futurum Signal is the source, but it's a source.
Yes,
it is. It is a definitive source.
And they weren't in the top 2.
No, they weren't.
And look, Google does have an inherent advantage here. They do have that true vertical integration up and down the stack. Is that maybe at play here?
I think so.
Feel like they had to play a little catch up, and that's an uncomfortable situation for them. They're the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the reason we put them in that situation, there's many reasons. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's many reasons. But I mean, when you look at Google invented transformers, and so they kind of were there at the beginning of this whole thing, and then many other things that are going on. It has been a bit of a race to the who's got the best model thing, and that's who's got the best model today, and there'll be somebody along tomorrow with a newer one. And until really reInvent last year, Amazon, AWS really wasn't playing in that way at all. They announced Nova a year ago, and now we've got the newer ones, which I think you've already talked about. That's not the only measure though of success in AI. Certainly from the end user point of view, it's not. It's just because it's a lot of it is kind of FUD and confusion, and say today's benchmarks are old hat by tomorrow. But I think they weren't as prominent in that kind of model race. That may end up being a good thing for them. I don't know in terms of the resources you have to spend to get to the top of that tree. And then obviously Microsoft was kind of outsourcing everything to OpenAI, and now is obviously playing a more pragmatic game. So it's kind of they're right up there because of their OpenAI relationship, which gradually is going to get diluted, both from a kind of financial point of view, but also from a kind of product development point of view, as they can hedge their bets with other model companies. So I think it's certainly, I don't really believe it's a race that only one company. It's not a zero-sum game.
No.
Not one company is going to win and everybody else loses. And maybe in a year's time we'll be thinking back and saying, look at AWS, they've caught up. So I think their customer base is so vast.
No, they still have a lot of cards.
Yeah.
That are worth playing. Let me posit something else at you, Nick. Tremendous amount of attention on the Trainium processors. And this follows, I think it was last week or the week before, Google's announcement around chips. Is this the signal that we're moving, that the real action is moving from GPUs to other kinds of chips? So in other words, from training to inference? I'm not taking up any collections or playing any death knells for NVIDIA, mind you. But are we moving towards, not towards, but a more multipolar world where GPU isn't the only chip we need to use for AI?
Organizations have wanted silicon diversity for years, and they haven't got it at the moment. I think it's baby steps, very, 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 very baby steps. This is, NVIDIA has, it's dominant market share and will do for quite a long time to come. And will it eventually slip from 90% to 85% to 80%? Yes, it probably will. And that's got as much to do with AMD as it's got to do with AWS and Google. But I think, the Trainium stuff was interesting. It was completely predictable because they said they were going to do it last year, and they did it, so that's good. They had Trainium 2 last year, Trainium 3 this year, and now they're talking about Trainium 4.
6X is powerful as 3.
And then you have these kind of Trainium, the ultra service things, which is it's a sovereignty play. It's like, you get our chips plus, all the interconnects and everything else in the stack and shove it in your data center. And I think that's something they had not really talked about much. I've had Outposts for years, and it went through a period of time in 24 and in early 25 of ignoring the fact that on-premises matter at all. And the old adage, once you move everything to the cloud, X, Y, Z will happen. Well, people don't move everything to the cloud. So I thought that was really interesting as well.
Yeah.
And I think that is you're going to hear more sovereignty stuff from AWS in New Year as well. And that's gone from being there's a lot of people in the US thinking of obsession of Germany and France and countries like that to more or less every single country in the world.
You know what? So our whole presence here is sponsored by our friends at SUSE.
All right.
And, they've gone into digital sovereignty in a big way. They've actually started a whole division around it. Now, granted, they are a Luxembourg, European-based company, and so maybe that feeds into the narrative you're talking about. But I'll go one better. I think we may see a world in the U.S. where you have state-to-state sovereignty issues, right? I'm a, for lack of a better word, a blue state versus a red state, and I don't want abortion data available to the red state, right? And just so I want to know if it's hosted in my state, and I want to make sure they can't get their hands on this.
Pretty close. Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about data sovereignty, it's not just a nation state thing. It's a territory to territory thing. It's a big issue that's going to get bigger. Nick walked around today. You had a lot of meetings, spoke to a lot of people. What surprised you?
What surprised me? That's a difficult question to answer off the top of my head. I guess the few people I've spoken to so far, the show floor can be a bit intimidating. I think it is the progress of the agentic stuff, which maybe people want to say they're further along than they actually are, because we're incredibly early. That itself has become a bit of a cliche, saying we're incredibly early. But I think some of that the claimed progress in that is somewhat surprising, probably therefore maybe not entirely true. So I guess that might be a bit of sort of a surprise, sort of
It's a very UK proper way of saying I don't believe it.
We're a very, very polite nation. But I think that's probably the case. I guess, I mean, from the AWS point of view, I think the kind of the sovereignty stuff we were just talking about, I think the amount of emphasis I've seen on that and heard from them on that was was probably a bit higher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. Nick, I know you have to run out to another appointment. That's why I wanted to focus on you earlier without going to Mitchell. You recently, I think the Signal report that you had done on AI had come out. Where can people keep up with what not just the Signal reports, but you're constantly putting out.
Yeah, futurumgroup.com. That's where all our stuff goes. On the socials, I'm on Twitter X at Nick Patience, but not very often. On LinkedIn more often. Yeah. But the Signal stuff is available for everybody to look at, and so that was the first one of the AI platforms, and I think we had 9 vendors in the Signal, and of which AWS was certainly one. And there will be others along in Q1, Q2 of next year, I'm sure. I'm not going to commit to a specific date, but there's more. It's been a really interesting exercise, and we've had some sort of validation the way we've done it and how quickly we can turn these around and get results which actually make sense and resonate in the market. I think has been really encouraging.
Absolutely. Nick, I'm going to let you go. Cool. Thank you so much. Al. Nick Patience, check him out. Another one of the great Futurum analysts. We're going to take just a quick 3-second break as we unhook Nick from his tether here on the microphone, and I'll continue our conversation with Mitchell. You're watching TechStrong TV.